How we doing? Everybody all right? Good day today? Here's the good news. We're going on Monday because we've got hoop going on tomorrow, right? Which is a good thing. So that's exciting. We're not starting with injuries. Okay? All right, we're not doing that. Okay, I'll leave that for you. And other than that, we should be ready to go. You guys ready? Well, it seems like forever since we visited. I guess it was last Tuesday, prior to kind of our practice coming out of spring break, which I thought, was okay, kind of to be expected, but there was actually some better things once I watched the video than what I anticipated, and then we were able to get the pads on. Saturday's practice was really good, especially in some situational things. Both quarterbacks, I was happy to see executed at a pretty high level, which, we did dummy it down a little bit, obviously, for their progress. But I think the big thing is finding out the understanding of what they feel comfortable with and going with it that way. They've handled a lot of the new stuff that we've installed, new to what maybe we've done in the past. So I was really happy with seeing some of that. Which is good. Really excited about how our offensive line has progressed, and just seeing the energy in which they're playing with, and the finish, and kind of throughout practice. That's been really good, and to see those guys kind of joining arms a little bit, I think is a good way to say it, and have really done a good job, and we'll see if we can sustain as we move forward. So, this time of year, going in, watching practice, evaluating personnel every single day, talking about every player on your team, and yet making sure you get enough time to get and watch basketball. This is a great time of year. And my hat's off to how our guys are playing. Mike's got those guys playing unselfish. You don't see a lot of guys calling for, me. I think it's really a testament to seeing a team play and be concerned more about their teammates and getting them involved than how many points they score. That's fun to watch. And again, can't say enough good things there. But getting to the injury update, obviously Kavaris is still out. Nick Bolano, one of our walk-on O-linemen, I think this is important to note, has a high ankle sprain. So he should probably be back sometime midway through the season next year, I would guess. But other than that, we've been pretty successful as far as that end. We've had Kamori Gamble had like strep throat or something like that, but I think he's going to practice today. He practiced on Saturday, but we'll see how that goes. But other than that, things are going good. Young guys, it's great to see Kadeem get his feet wet the way he's been doing it, and to see him compete, and really, more than anything, kind of following Tez's footsteps a little bit on how he's playing. That's been a lot of fun to see. The guys that kind of were injured that are doing whatever the non-contact drills. I don't see Dre Massey missing anything as far as a step of quickness or speed or anything like that. See, Jim McElwain has done some really good things for us at corner, and he's up to 190 whatever pounds, 91 or 2 pounds, which is really good to see from that standpoint. James is at linebacker is going through everything. Thinking about some of the young guys as far as their development. It's good that those guys are here, and Kamori is guy that's people are gonna know who he is. He's doing a really good job. So it's fun to see that piece of it as well. But other than that, we'll go shells today. We'll get into a little bit of full pad on Wednesday. Go back to shells and then do a good situational scrimmage of some type on Saturday. We'll kind of see where we're at based on the next couple practices as far as what we need to really emphasize in that. Going to work a little coming out and end of game situation stuff today. Really excited to see how the quarterbacks handle that. So, questions? You ought to be full of questions. I mean, I haven't seen you in a whole bunch of times here. What's? I figured you missed those. I did. I mean, you're a buddy. Now, does that cost you 2 tickets when you go to the ball games?
No.
Okay.
I was down at Bay Hill is why I wasn't up here with you. Roy Saunders is waiting for you to come play that course.
I know.
We saw it yesterday walking. I mean, those two, they're massive.
I tell you
like
what,
12-footers.
Think about what a great weekend it was for the city of Orlando. You know, with having the hoop tourney there, obviously the golf tourney. Man, that's a lot of fun.
So, Coach, you kind of switched up the schedule on spring this year, kind of with spring break kind of shoved in there.
Yeah.
What was your assessment of that, and what did you see what you wanted from the players when they got back?
We had talked a little bit. It was one of those deals where kind of up against it a little bit where we don't want to go over, Easter. I don't think that's right. And yet, what I didn't want to do is come back after spring and try to just jam some practices together where we could actually get some spacing and get some good film work in learning. It's something we've done a couple of places we've been periodically. We haven't done it here yet. I think time will tell, but using the no pads on the front end, a lot of times on that 14th practice, you're preparing for, your spring game, and I don't know how much you really get out of that practice. So for us, that'll still be a shells practice, so hopefully we'll get, some good work on it. But time will tell a little bit. I like the days in between because of the recovery and, your ability to really push them during the practice days.
And what position group do you feel like's been the most competitive?
I think the most competitive, I go to our running back group. I'm seeing some competition at wideout, which is good to see. Even, and knowing that Freddie's still not there, and yet he's going to be a big piece of what we're doing. I think we're really developing some stuff at that position as far as guys really pushing each other, I guess, is a good way to see it. And then, without David there at that linebacker group, we've got some guys taking a bunch of different reps. Moon is a guy that played a little bit early, then got hurt. We're going to be able to redshirt him probably, because he played in the early games. But he's a guy that's really showed up, I think, in that linebacker group.
Going back to Kamori Gamble, what's impressed you about him so far?
His natural football instinct, the fact it's really important to him, and his toughness has really showed up. And like a lot of these young guys, I mean, they're hungry. And just seeing him go out and compete and take coaching, I think has been really good.
How do you see him being used to see he develops?
See him being used as a tight end in a lot of different ways, as we like to use that group. But he gives us some versatility, I think, as well. He's got really good ball skills.
And one more, you mentioned Kadeem. He's stuck behind Tez and Juwan at tackle.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's stuck behind him because he could actually push. He's doing a nice job. And, the old stuck behind a guy deal. It ain't stuck because the best guys are going to play.
4-word choice.
Yes, very. That's exactly. Yeah, no, that's right.
Speaking of the offensive line, is there kind of a new energy there
Can we
with Coach
talk
Davis?
hoop? Can we? Do we got to talk football here? Can we talk some hoops? I mean, unbelievable. I thought Arkansas had that thing. That'd have been good for all four
They
teams.
couldn't score down the stretch.
Yeah, just
Killed 'em.
dang, that was a good ball game. See what South Carolina did? That was pretty powerful. And more than that, just the way our guys are playing. You know, Mike's got our guys playing unselfish ball. You know what I mean? Guys giving of themselves for the benefit of others. I love it.
They
Okay,
play
go ahead.
defense.
Hey, and you know what? Aren't afraid to. You know, that, you know, I think doing the things in life that are not easy, but that are hard, only to look forward to the stuff you like to do. What they're doing is they're doing the little things. I mean, it's something we talk about over and over and over. And sometimes to be successful, no, not sometimes, anytime to be successful, you have to do some things you don't necessarily like to do or don't come natural, which, you know what, getting in a defensive stance and sinking your hips and not reaching and playing team defense. I mean, that's what they're doing. It's fun to watch. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Do you think Kevon Allen will come out of his shooting slump?
You know what? There's no doubt in my mind. And you know what? I look at it as this. Sometimes even those guys that get into that, you don't want them to get hot, so the other team is going to go ahead and maintain their, hey, here's the shooter, you got to take this away or whatever, which in turn, I think he's done a great job of involving the other guys. So when he does come and, you know, gets out of that little bit of a shooting slump, which is going to happen in the Garden. Can you imagine playing at 10 o'clock in the Garden? Think about this. Think about just the opportunity to play a game in the Garden. Think about all the events that have happened and have taken place over the years in that place. Wow, that'd be unbelievable. I'm not sure. I'd be nervous to go shoot layups right there. I mean, that'd be great.
What's the biggest event?
I would say it'd have to be one of the boxing, yeah, and just in my mind. Well, you know, it's funny. I talked about the Willis Reed game when our quarterback he was hurt and he kind of limped back into play, and he looked at me like, who the heck's Willis Reed? And I felt horrible. Anyway, go ahead.
The offensive line, have you seen kind of a new energy there with Coach Davis?
Yeah, you know, I think anytime that, you know, that happens, you know, Mike did obviously an awesome job with those guys and created the continuity when we got here. Obviously, hearing a different voice, the way they just go about the drills, you know, they're not just walking to the line of scrimmage. You know, they're playing with a renewed sense, you know, as far as how they go about it, and he demands it from them. And you know, it's good to see. You know, it's funny, but I think this is really Tez's first real spring because he's kind of been injured, right? Yeah. So I think just having him there has really helped as well because he's really a good leader.
Have you brought up the basketball team at all with your team?
Yeah, we talk hoops all the time, man. So, and using some of the things that they do or great teams do, I think one of the ones that you ought to probably kind of go listen to as well is you know, on the women's basketball side, the head coach at UConn talked about in a press conference about, you know, body language and the importance of what that is. And like I see our guys, man, they're affecting each other the way it should be. And there's some great lessons to learn. It doesn't matter what the sport, because the things that help you be successful in any team sport are universal. And so any examples of those that we can use, obviously we use.
And then this is a little bit of a different question, but you guys have taken some grad transfers the first 2 years you've been here. Is that something you'll look into in the future?
Yeah, I mean, if it happens and we have the spot and we have the number, that's something definitely that we would do.
There was some debate about, I guess the SEC has a rule that
Yeah.
grad transfers don't complete a certain amount of academic work. Are you guys good on that, or is that a rule that maybe is
Well,
under
it's
review?
one that hurt us actually, with the two guys that we took that first year, or I guess second year, whatever it was, first year, second year. And yet, it's something that they're looking at because we're unique to any other conference in the NCAA as far as those requirements.
Jim, couple things on Luke. How's he doing right now as far as just where he's at with his spirits and not being able
Yeah.
to practice? And two, where do you see him kind of fitting back into the quarterback competition in the fall?
Well, he'll be ready to go. I like the way he's, even at practice, just talking to the guys. Obviously, he wasn't there this last one because he, was still recovering as far as he's learning how to do things left-handed right now because he's in a right-handed sling, which is good. I mean, some of the guys that are really hard to cover are the ones that, when you're a kid, hey, take his right hand away, right? Well, you learn to play with your left, and now that gives you a quick first step to get to the hoop. So, but no, he's doing great.
And then when we met with Nuss last week, he was pretty much asked point blank, why will the offense be better this year? And he said bluntly, the players. And he mentioned, what you guys have kind of built, the experience that they've gotten. Do you feel the same way that can make that much of a difference this season?
Yeah, no, we're, I feel good about it. And, the way that they've, they got a little chip on their shoulder too. And that's a good thing because they hear the same thing that you probably asked us. And I think they're kind of tired of it. So that's a good thing.
So the wide receiver position, what can it do to kind of, you're going to have a young quarterback potentially. What
the
can it do
biggest
to
thing,
kind of help that guy?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is they've got to win on 50-50 balls, number one. And the other thing is they've got to do a great job of creating space and simply understanding zones and knowing how to get open. And we've got some really good speed there, and we've got some quickness. I think it's a group. It's Antonio's first spring as well that we've had him, and with Tyree, this is his first kind of go through the whole thing. Obviously, Dre was here a year ago, and BP was having that foot, that we had to worry about a year ago. So having all those guys kind of there doing stuff, it's something that's really good.
Rashad Higgins was in Orlando for the Bolitnikoff, and I spoke with him a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
he talked about you taking him off to into the office and showing him route depth and all these kinds of things constantly.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing hands-on wise with these guys, and do you see that kind of potential from some of these guys to get to that level?
Yeah, so what happens is, especially at that position, understanding the importance of the detail. So if I've got to be at a certain place at a certain time, that's what helps the timing of the route and the pattern and the spacing and everything else along with it. And their understanding, I think the one thing he did a great job of is taught himself to understand the concept and the why he needs to be where he needs to be. And it really helped him and helped us production-wise because being a student of the game is where I see kind of the second step of a great player at that position in understanding the nuances. And more than that, it's not just I'm open, catch it, but I can do something that can actually help someone else within each given play, and you really see that with these guys. Yeah, yeah.
Coach, last week you talked up Brett Heggie and Nick
Yeah.
Buchanan a little bit. How are they doing? Is there any movement on the offensive
Yeah.
line at all yet?
They're doing, them and then Fred obviously rolling through at the guard spot. One of the things we're doing is also with TJ at center, we're taking a lot of reps with Tyler Jordan and Hagee at that center spot as well, trying to create kind of some depth in that inside three. TJ's been doing a good job, but as we found out last year, in whatever game that was, when Cam went down, Tyler came in the next series and went down, and everybody looked and said, Stevie, get in there. You're the center. And we actually ended up playing better with him in there. So making sure we've got the depth at that, and those guys kind of helping each other in that internal group to get that rotation there and then get the rotation we need at the tackle spot.
What have you seen so far in terms of development from the secondary?
Yeah, I think the big thing there, I think Marcel and Duke really honing in on the corner piece, which he hadn't had he's been our nickel as well, obviously, but really focusing on that. Marcel's done a great job of the communication piece. He and Nick in the back end. Chauncey trying to be, locked down on that other corner spot where he ended up having to do a lot of nickel and safety. This has been really good for those guys. And we haven't been in a ton of true nickel because we've got kind of that hybrid piece, in both Moon and obviously KC, who played a lot of that last year as well. This week as we go in, we're actually going to get more into the 5 DBs in the game, which part of being able to do that, I think Joseph Putu is doing a really good job at corner. So that gives us those 3 guys. Obviously, CJ can only go during, non-hitting drills, but he's a guy I think I even talked about last fall that was really kind of jumping out at us as a player, and he's picked up pretty good too. So getting that depth, and then obviously we've got a slew of new guys coming in this summer that have got to learn fast and know that's the defensive back spot at the University of Florida is a legacy position, and those guys got a lot to live up to.
You mentioned obviously a couple guys have stood out to you. Just from the guys that weren't really heavily involved in the rotation last year, who's really stood out to you that just has come on since the pads have come on?
You're at a particular position or what?
Or just overall, just any other guys that
You just want to write about some guys. So we get done just talking about how it's a team game. All right, it ain't about one guy. It's about each guy. Just watch our basketball team, right? Now you want me to individualize this thing and circle a guy. So I go totally against what the heck we're trying to establish at the University of Florida. Is that right? Just to give you something to write about. Okay. Nick Villano was doing a great job before he got a high ankle sprain, and we won't see him again until probably Game 8 next year, at least. I mean, I don't know that he'll ever be back, but looking at that, guys, I think now I've been really happy with Mark Thompson. The way he's been going. Not to say Jordan and LaMichael aren't. Those guys are doing really good, but I think he's taken some real maturity steps. Shoot, I don't know. Up front, Taven Bryan, he has been our most consistent player day to day in all drills, which is something he kind of lacked, was consistency a little bit. And he has probably taken as big a step as anybody on the team as far as consistency and performance. Doesn't matter the drill. He did some flash things before, but he's actually he and Kerry Clark both have done a really good job inside. So that's huge for us. So I'd say if you want to write about somebody, write about those 2 guys. would probably be good.
And just as far as Brandon Sandefur, I didn't see him at the first 3 practices. What's his status with the team right now?
Yeah, he's no longer with us, and he's going to move on.
Coach, I saw that Chris Cook, the quadruple amputee, he spoke with you guys last week. What can you say about what he had to say and what the guys' reaction was to him?
What a great story, number one. What an inspiration. His story has to do with, if I can, right? And, it was great just to hear him speak and how, it's not about excuses. It's not about anything like that. And it's about overcoming and doing all you can do. We do a lot of those type of things with our guys in the, off-field piece. And, it obviously affected a group of guys in a real positive way that actually asked me afterwards. Some guys from our team asked me if we can bring him back next fall and let him see a game in the Swamp, But it was a really, really good, really hard-hitting piece. And, he's a guy that gives great inspiration.
CC played inside and outside last year. Where do you see him settling in this season?
Well, it just depends on what package and what down and distance. I think you're going to see both. He's a guy we need to get into matchup situations, be it, whether it's on a tackle that we want to try to, work the one-on-ones with, or if it's on a guard away from a slide side, if we can dictate that. But he's a guy that's got to be able to play it all. He's another guy I think that he just loves, he loves to play. He's not too cool for school. This guy loves to go out and play. And he's so much fun to have on the team. It's just his energy and his day-to-day approach is really good. And he continues to get better.
And with Taven, knowing you had a big void to fill there, did you challenge him or?
Yeah, it's something we talked heavily about in the off season, and he had kind of a luxury, so to say, because you had Bullard and Caleb, and you know what I'm getting at, where he's counted on now, and he's got to fill those shoes. And so far, okay, not ready to so quit writing that stuff, okay? He's doing a good job. How's that? All right. All right, good. It's too late. Hey, you know what? We're going to have to put a new, rule in here. No Insta tweets, I guess.
Guys, any more questions? We good? Oh, I'm sorry. I see it back there, Mark.
Among the guys that have moved around a little bit, anybody kind of catching your eye? And then certainly if you can comment on some of the other guys at interior at D tackle.
Yeah, the guys, Cam Knight was he showed up. He got slowed a little bit with a kind of a leg, but he practiced, okay, so he wouldn't be on the injury report. Okay, so I'm not holding that from you. But he's a guy that showed up. It'll be interesting as kind of we wear on, especially when we get into some scrimmage situations, to kind of see how that piece goes. As Rowell is a guy that's going to make some noise for us as an O-lineman here down the road, which is good to see. He's a guy that, he's a legacy. He's a good player. He needs to put on some weight and do some things that way, but he's going to help us.
His dad was really tough.
And this guy didn't fall far from the tree then, He's got a first step quickness. Again, he's undersized, and yet he can overcome some of that with the way he plays.
Probably getting old and become a guy.
That was pretty good. All right, we good? Thanks, guys.